And now, a message from our sponsor, Insights. Insights believes that threat intelligence benefits organizations of all shapes and sizes by helping them proactively defend against an attacker's next move. That's why Insights is offering a free, personalized company threat intelligence report to help you manage the risk in today's cybersecurity landscape. Using only your company's domain, Insights' proprietary tools find potential external threats, including phishing attacks and dark web mentions, targeting your organization within minutes. To download your free threat intelligence report, go to insights.com/cyberwire. And we thank Insights for sponsoring our show. Sentinel-1 attributes the cyberespionage campaign against Russia's FSB to Chinese services. President Biden replaces his predecessor's bans on TikTok and WeChat with a process of engagement, security reviews, and data protection. More on the FBI-led Operation Trojan Shield. Privateering, again. NATO's Article 5 in cyberspace. Joe Kerrigan weighs in on recent high-profile cyber incidents. Our guest is Sashi Kiran from Ariaka on their 2021 State of the WAN report and notes on Patch Tuesday. From the CyberWire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. Cyberscoop reports that Sentinel-1 believes it knows, roughly speaking, who hacked into Russian government networks last year. It was, the security firm says, Chinese espionage services and not one of the Five Eyes. The espionage group they call the Thundercats gets the credit, Sentinel Labs reports, and it bases its conclusions on what it regards as decisive code similarities to campaigns the APT has earlier used against targets in Southeast Asia. Sentinel-1 researcher Juan Andres Guerrero Sade told Cyberscoop, quote, "The idea of Chinese targeting of Russian government and vice versa should not shock us. Sino-Russian relations are complex and involve hot-button issues like a shared border, diplomatic and economic interests." End quote. What is relatively unusual is Russia's decision to publicly call out a hostile espionage operation. Diplomatic signaling by press release is more common in the West. U.S. President Biden this morning issued an executive order that effectively rescinds his predecessor's bans of WeChat and TikTok. While acknowledging an ongoing emergency, the new executive order directs engagement, security reviews, and data protection instead of outright bans. The FBI's satisfaction at the outcome of Operation Trojan Shield, which featured the use of an encrypted chat app under bureau control to identify criminals who thought they were safe from snooping, is well-deserved. It's also becomingly modest. Most of the bureau's fist-pumping has been done vicariously by its international partners. Most of the offenses were related to drug trafficking. Stuff summarizes the arrests and seizures. Quote, Operation Trojan Shield involved police swoops in 16 nations. More than 800 suspects were arrested and more than 32 tons of drugs, cocaine, cannabis, amphetamines, and methamphetamine were seized along with 250 firearms, 55 luxury cars, and more than $148 million U.S. in cash and cryptocurrencies. End quote. New Zealand's take alone collared senior members of the gangs with picturesque names like Mongrel Mob, Headhunters, and Comancheros. Does the international police sting that collared more than 800 suspects who unwittingly used an encrypted chat app secretly run by the U.S. FBI mean that the underworld will be skittish about using encryption? Probably not. Texas News Today talked to a range of experts who point out that the underworld's track record is to simply move on to other apps when one is known to have been compromised. The FBI's other big success this week was its recovery of a substantial fraction of the ransom Colonial Pipeline paid the dark side. The feds had the key to one of the wallets the gang used to share profits with its affiliates, and they were able to use that to take control of the altcoin the dark side had deposited there. It's a commendable clawback, but the Washington Post rains on the parade a little by pointing out that there's no single solution to ransomware. As long as it remains profitable, the hoods will continue to attack. Much recent ransomware activity has been regarded as privateering, state-tolerated criminal activity. The crooks get to keep the money they steal, and the state, and for state, read Russia, gets economic damage to its adversaries. For adversaries, read the United States, among others. State Scoop reports that FireEye's Kevin Mandia told a New York State cyber conference that the U.S. was getting sucker-punched in cyberspace and that this would continue until the nation upped its defensive game. NATO General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg has said this week that a significant cyber attack could trigger NATO's Article 5, the collective defense provision under which the Atlantic Alliance treats an attack against one member as an attack against all members. He also pointed out that NATO exercises now include cyber operations as a routine part of their scenario. The Atlantic Council, where Stoltenberg spoke Monday, outlined his remarks on Russia and China. He sees a dual-track approach to Russia. Quote, "A pattern of aggressive actions from Russia has led NATO to beef up its presence on its eastern front and in the Black and Baltic Sea." But ahead of Biden's meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which will follow the NATO summit, Stoltenberg said the alliance must maintain a dual-track approach. "We have to be strong, firm, but at the same time we need to strive for dialogue with Russia because Russia's our neighbor. We have to work on issues like arms control." Stoltenberg even raised the possibility of resuming the NATO-Russia Council, a forum for collaborative dialogue that has not convened since July 2019. Quote, "So far, the Russians are not answering in a positive way, but we have some contact with them now on the possibility of convening a meeting of the NATO-Russia Council." End quote. Stoltenberg sees China as a different problem. Quote, "We need to engage with China on issues like arms control and climate change, and therefore China is not an adversary." End quote. But from a crackdown on ethnic minorities to blocking freedom of navigation, they don't share our values, Stoltenberg added. How should NATO respond? Given Chinese investment in European infrastructure, NATO's 2030 agenda includes stronger guidance for resilience, telecommunications, undersea cables, energy grids, and critical infrastructure, and also investing in and working more on technology, sharpening our technological edge. Researchers at Security Scorecard tell Bloomberg that the REvil gang, in the course of their ransomware attack against meat processor JBS, succeeded in taking data from Australian and Brazilian units of the company. Yesterday was Patch Tuesday, and Microsoft addressed 49 issues, 5 of them rated critical, the rest assessed as important. 6 of the vulnerabilities were 0 days that have been undergoing active exploitation in the wild. Intel also patched yesterday, addressing 73 vulnerabilities in 23 advisories. Onapsis reports that SAP has issued 20 fixes to its products. Memory corruption issues are among the important vulnerabilities addressed. And Adobe also patched, issuing fixes for 41 vulnerabilities against 10 products. Imagine a Ferrari losing Le Mans to a 40-year-old Pinto with a broken headlight and 2 flat tires. That pretty much describes the very asymmetrical cybersecurity industry. Money never solved the hacking problem. At CrowdSec, they want to rebalance the odds and make security available to all for free. Their open-source, massively multiplayer firewall analyzes your visitor's behavior and deals with malicious traffic. Once an aggressive IP is identified, it's also shared across all users to ensure everyone's protection. No matter what your business size is, it offers an adapted response to credential stuffing, port scans, password brute forcing, and much more. At CrowdSec, they have each other's backs and make the internet safer together. Want to join the community and protect your IT assets? Visit crowdsec.net to learn more. Researchers at Ariaka Networks recently published the latest edition of their State of the WAN report, highlighting trends in SD-WAN and SASE planning and deployment. I spoke with Sashi Kiran from Ariaka for some of the highlights.
This is something that we use to shape our own roadmap, and we have a global presence with customers, a global footprint. And we don't see a report out there in the industry that reconciles all the nuances and the trends in a detailed way across different countries and regions. And so it's a good exercise for us to get in front of these trends and use them as a way to guide our own roadmaps. But at the same time, we also then end up sharing this with customers and prospects and partners, and becomes an invaluable thought leadership asset for them to use in their own planning efforts, which is doubly beneficial as a result.
What sort of things are you tracking in terms of challenges that folks are facing from a WAN point of view?
The biggest challenge that we have seen, aside from complexity, is really the focus on application performance. The WAN is really the lifeblood of the organization. If you look at being able to connect users regardless of which location they're operating from and the kind of applications that they're using. And if you don't have reliable performance, then it ends up really having a negative impact on employee productivity and performance. So that's been sort of top of mind. And we've also seen, as more applications became cloud ready and enterprises adopted a cloud-first approach to their WAN, they're also moving away from more static protocols like MPLS, which have been around for a couple of decades now, very reliable, focus on performance, but they're really not meant for change management and dynamic nature of the organizations today, where businesses are rapidly evolving. So that has led to greater preference towards more agile architectures, SD-WAN and SASE being amongst them. But we've also seen, going back to this notion of complexity, that enterprises don't necessarily want to go build out a set of boxes by themselves and manage it by themselves. So we're seeing this increased preference moving towards managed services, where they would ideally like to consume these services based on their usage model rather than go with a do-it-yourself approach and manage that inherent complexity. So these are some, top-of-mind things that we saw come out very prominently in this year's report.
That's Sashi Kiran from Ariaka Networks. Their State of the WAN report can be found on their website. It's time to take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, Ningio. Are you tired of boring cybersecurity awareness training PowerPoints that don't keep your attention? Turn your team into cybersecurity ninjas by getting them Ningio'd. Through animation, micro-learning episodes featuring celebrity actors, Ningio empowers individuals and organizations to obtain the skills, habits, and behaviors to truly become your last line of defense against cyber threats. Written and produced by Hollywood writers and based on real-life ripped-from-the-headlines events, millions of employees have come to love Ningio. With easy-to-remember security awareness lessons and teachable moments, companies using Ningio report a drastic decrease in cyber attacks based on human error. So head on over to Ningio.com, that's Ninjio.com, to learn more and watch their latest episode for free. And we thank Ningio for sponsoring our show. And joining me once again is Joe Carrigan. He's from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute, also my co-host over on the Hacking Humans podcast. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
So I wanted to touch base with you today about some of the trends that we're seeing when it comes to ransomware attacks. The attackers are upping their game and shifting their targeting. What do you make of all this, Joe?
That's what do I make of it? I don't know what I make of it yet, but it's an interesting trend. Normally, we see them going after businesses, right?
Right.
And they're targeting businesses who they know have deep pockets, and then they're basing their ransom demands based on the company's revenue. They were actually doing a lot of business analysis in order to do this.
Right.
Now they've kind of shifted from doing that to shutting things down.
Yeah.
Right. Making it so that services are not available to the general public. Things like the Colonial Pipeline shutdown that was carried out by DarkSide. And then DarkSide saw that, or our evil saw that DarkSide got $4 million out of that. And of course, that only incentivizes them to attack. And they've since attacked the JBS meat plant or a bunch of meat plants, and as well as the New York subway and Martha Vineyards ferries.
Yeah. I wonder how much of it's intentional. I mean, first of all, it's I guess it's important to note that when it came to Colonial Pipeline, it wasn't the ransomware folks who shut down the pipeline. It was Colonial who shut down the pipeline because they couldn't do their billing, and they were concerned about that. So that may be a distinction without a difference. The bottom line is the stuff didn't flow.
Right. And there was an article in the Wall Street Journal where the CEO explained why he did it. He said they didn't know how far they got into the system. Mm-hmm. So he thought they may have been in the operational technology.
Right. So better to be safe than sorry and shut things down than perhaps have things go really off the rails, I guess was the rationale.
Yes. Agreed. And I think that was the right decision to shut the pipeline down.
Yeah.
If you don't have faith in the system running it, you shut it down. Same with the meat plant. There's a lot of SCADA systems in there that, when I first heard about this, I'm like, well, what kind of SCADA systems are in a meat processing plant? But there are a lot. There's a lot of temperature control stuff that is absolutely imperative for food safety.
Right.
There's pumps, lots of pumps that are controlled by these SCADA systems. Mm-hmm. And now they're shutting down a ferry system. This has a direct impact on people's mobility. These are things that impact all of us. And it's a change from the almost nameless, faceless ransomware attack on a corporation that, oh no, now this corporation can't do their job and they have to pay some ransom or have to rebuild all their computers. Now it's things like, hey, my meat prices are going up, my gasoline prices are going up, I can't get where I need to be. It's a change, and I find it interesting that right now the Department of Justice is prioritizing these attacks. Right. They're saying that it's the same level of terrorism. The Business Insider has a story today saying that the FBI director, Christopher Wray, has compared the latest spate of ransomware attacks to the U.S. in the U.S. to 9/11. I don't know if that's a valid comparison. I'm not sure that very many people have died as a result of these ransomware attacks. Right. But it is certainly an attack. It is certainly a series of attacks, and DarkSide says that they've gone away, right? Yeah, that's what they said when they were GanCrab, right? Yeah, exactly. So they'll be back. You don't make $4 million and then just disappear in this kind of market. Yeah, and I wonder if they've all sort of gone a bridge too far, or I guess the sports analogy, have they outkicked their coverage in that? By doing this, they got their $4 million or whatever the ransom was, but now they have the attention of the U.S. government at the highest levels. Right. And, President Biden has said he'll be speaking with President Putin about this when they get together in a few weeks. It'll be interesting to see to what degree is he able to apply pressure to try to stop this. Right. Yeah, we'll have to pay attention to see how that goes. It'll be interesting to watch. Yeah. I think it's also interesting how it puts ransomware in the larger global scale where, a nation for example, the U.S. could put financial pressure on the Russians. The U.S. could have more sanctions on the Russians. Right. In other words, it's not just sort of tit for tat within cybersecurity. It's reached the point where we're using the other levers of diplomacy that we have to try to say, hey, knock it off, knuckleheads. Right. And the Russian counterargument to that is these are criminal elements within our organization or within our country. We don't have control over these guys. You don't have control over your criminal elements.
Yeah.
How can you expect us to have control over ours?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right. I hear you, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. All right. I think we all know, how the degree to which we should take those sorts of statements coming out of Russia seriously.
Yes, agreed.
History has proven us the degree to which we should take those sorts of statements coming out of Russia seriously. So we will. All right. Well, Joe Kerrigan, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the CyberWire possible. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland at the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our amazing CyberWire team is Elliot Peltzman, Puru Prakash, Kelsey Bond, Tim Nodar, Joe Kerrigan, Carol Terrio, Ben Yellen, Nick Valecki, Gina Johnson, Bennett Moe, Chris Russell, John Petrick, Jennifer Iben, Rick Howard, Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And now, a word from our sponsor, ExtraHop, stopping advanced threats with network detection and response. Stopping advanced threats requires knowing exactly what you're up against. With 90 days look-back, ExtraHop Reveal X is the only solution that shows you not just where the intruders are going within your network, but where they've been. ExtraHop Reveal X provides complete visibility across cloud, data center, and IoT, even when traffic is encrypted. Powered by cloud-based AI, Reveal X finds threats in real time, while powerful investigation and forensics capabilities allow you to respond 84% faster. See how it works in the full production demo, free online at extrahop.com/cyber. That's extrahop.com/cyber.